Hello everyone, and welcome back to Native Flow English, the channel where real stories help you learn English naturally and effectively. If this is your first time here, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment below. We love reading your thoughts, and your ideas will also help other learners feel connected. Today, we begin with a powerful story, a real-life journey, and an important life lesson. Our topic is children, a joy or a challenge for parents. This is not just an English lesson. It is a conversation about life, family, and emotions that almost everyone can relate to. And as you listen, remember, the best way to improve your English is to listen carefully, repeat out loud, and practice speaking as if you are part of this story. Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever thought about how a baby can bring so much joy into a family, but also so many worries as the child grows up? Think about it. A child is born, and the parents feel happiness that words cannot describe. But as the years pass, problems, challenges, and difficult choices appear. What do you think? Is it true that raising children is both a blessing and a test? Write your opinion in the comments. I really want to hear your voice. Our story today is about a woman named Sarah. Sarah lives in a quiet neighborhood with her husband and their 2 children. When Sarah first became a mother, she felt that her life was full of meaning. She remembered the first time she held her baby girl in her arms. The small fingers, the soft skin, the gentle cry, everything was magical. Like many parents, she thought, "This is the best moment of my life." At the beginning, everything seemed perfect. The baby smiled. The house was filled with laughter, and family members came to visit and celebrate. Sarah and her husband took hundreds of photos, capturing every little detail of their daughter's first days. They thought that love alone was enough to raise a child. But life has a way of teaching us lessons. As the years passed, Sarah discovered that being a parent is not just about joy. It is also about patience, sacrifice, and sometimes pain. Her daughter, Emma, grew older, and with each stage of growth came new challenges. When Emma was a toddler, she was curious and active. She asked many questions. Why is the sky blue? Why do we sleep? Why do birds fly? These questions were funny and sweet, but sometimes they were also tiring. Sarah often felt exhausted, but she told herself, "This is normal. Children learn by asking." She answered with a smile, even when she was tired. But then came school. Emma began to see the world outside her family. She met friends with different personalities, different habits, and different ways of thinking. Sometimes Emma came home happy, telling stories about her new friends, but sometimes she came home angry, upset, or confused. She started saying things like, "My friends are more fun than you," or "Other parents let their kids do whatever they want. Why can't I?" Sarah felt a new kind of pain. She realized that her little girl was no longer a baby. She was becoming her own person, with her own thoughts and her own choices, and sometimes those choices were difficult to accept. Have you ever seen this in real life? A child who was once sweet and obedient suddenly becomes stubborn, distant, or rebellious. How do parents react in this situation? If you are a parent, or if you remember being a child like this, share your thoughts in the comments. I want to know your story. One of the hardest moments for Sarah was when Emma, now a teenager, refused to listen. For example, Sarah told her not to spend too much time on her phone. But Emma answered, "Mom, you don't understand me. Everyone else is online. Why can't I be like them?" This sentence broke Sarah's heart. She felt that the bond between mother and daughter was fading. At this point, Sarah began to ask herself many questions. She wondered, am I too strict? Am I too soft? Am I guiding my child correctly? Or am I pushing her away? She remembered the joy of holding her baby years ago. And she wondered, where did that time go? Why does it feel so different now? Parents all over the world face these questions, no matter if they live in the United States, Canada, Europe, or Australia. The experience is similar. Children bring joy, but they also bring worries. Raising a child is like walking on a long road full of surprises. Sometimes the road is smooth. Sometimes it is full of stones and holes, but parents cannot stop walking because love keeps them moving forward. Sarah decided that she needed to find balance. She could not control Emma's life completely, but she also could not let her daughter go without guidance. So she started to read, to ask other parents, and to learn new ways of communication. She discovered that the secret is not in giving orders, but in listening. The more she listened to Emma, the more Emma felt understood, and when a child feels understood, she is more open to advice. But this is just the beginning of Sarah's journey. The question remains, can she truly connect with her daughter again? Can she help Emma stay away from bad habits and make good choices in life? And most importantly, can she manage her own emotions as a parent? Before we continue, let me ask you, what do you think is the biggest challenge for parents when children become teenagers? Is it communication? Is it discipline? Or is it finding trust? Please write your opinion in the comments. Your answer will help us build a community where we learn from each other, not only English, but also wisdom for life. In the next part of the story, we will follow Sarah as she faces more serious challenges with Emma, including arguments, misunderstandings, and the fear of losing her daughter to negative influences. But we will also see how patience, love, and smart strategies can bring hope. So stay with us. Listen carefully and repeat the sentences out loud. This way, you are not only learning English, but also learning about life. And remember, English is not just grammar and vocabulary. It is about stories, emotions, and connections. That is why at Native Flow English, we always use real-life stories to help you grow. Thank you for staying with us until the end of part 1. Please like this video, subscribe to Native Flow English, and most importantly, leave a comment. Tell us, what part of Sarah's story reminds you of your own life? We cannot wait to hear from you. As Sarah's daughter Emma moved deeper into her teenage years, the family dynamic began to change even more. The sweet, innocent child who once ran into her mother's arms after school now often closed the bedroom door and preferred to be alone. Sarah noticed the change little by little. Like the slow passing of seasons, at first, she ignored it, telling herself, this is normal, all teenagers want privacy. But soon, the silence inside the house grew heavy, and Sarah felt as if an invisible wall had been built between her and her daughter. One evening, Sarah cooked dinner Emma's favorite pasta with fresh tomato sauce. She hoped that the warm smell would bring Emma to the kitchen with a smile, just like in the old days. But instead, Emma came to the table with her phone in her hand, earphones in her ears, and barely touched her food. Emma, can you please put down your phone while we eat? Sarah asked gently. Emma sighed loudly and said, Mom, it's just one message. Why are you always so strict? That one small sentence hurt Sarah more than she expected. It was not about the phone. It was about feeling distant, about losing the closeness they once shared. She wondered, how did we get here? How did dinner, which used to be a time for laughter, become so cold. This situation is familiar to many parents. Technology, social media, and peer pressure often create a gap between parents and children. Have you ever experienced this? Have you ever seen a family sitting at the same table, but each person is looking at a screen instead of each other? Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think technology brings families closer, or does it push them apart? Sarah knew she could not simply ban Emma from using her phone. That would only create more conflict. Instead, she tried a different approach. She waited until later that night, when Emma was calmer, and knocked on her daughter's door. "Emma," she said softly, "I know your phone is important to you, but I miss talking to you. Can we agree on a time every day to just sit, eat, and talk? No phones, just us?" At first, Emma rolled her eyes, but after a moment, she nodded. It was a small step, but it gave Sarah hope. She realized that instead of controlling her daughter, she needed to negotiate, to build trust through compromise. Still, challenges continued to appear. Emma's grades at school began to drop. Teachers reported that she was often distracted and sometimes even skipped homework. When Sarah asked her why, Emma answered, "School is boring. You don't understand how hard it is for me." This was another painful moment. Sarah had always dreamed that her daughter would do well in school, go to university, and have a successful future. But now, she saw that forcing Emma to study harder was not working. The more she pushed, the more Emma resisted. Sarah began to reflect on her own teenage years. She remembered how she too had argued with her parents, how she had wanted freedom, and how misunderstood she had felt. She thought, maybe Emma is not trying to fight me. Maybe she is just trying to find herself. Have you ever felt this way as a teenager, wanting freedom, but also needing guidance? Or maybe you are a parent who is facing the same problem right now. What do you think is the best way to motivate a teenager to study without creating conflict? Please share your answer in the comments. One Saturday afternoon, Sarah decided to take Emma out for a walk in the park. She thought that maybe a change of environment would make it easier to talk. The weather was cool, and the trees were full of green leaves. At first, Emma stayed silent, her eyes on the ground. But as they walked longer, she began to open up. "Mom," Emma said quietly, "sometimes I feel like you don't trust me. You always tell me what not to do, but you never ask me what I want." Those words were like a mirror. Sarah realized she had spent so much time warning, correcting, and worrying that she had forgotten to simply listen. She decided to change her approach. "Emma," she replied, "you're right. I need to listen more. Tell me, what do you really want right now? What are your dreams?" For the first time in a long time, Emma smiled. She talked about her love for art, her desire to paint, and her dream of sharing her work online. Sarah listened carefully, resisting the urge to give advice or judgment. She just listened. And in that simple act, something changed. Emma felt seen. She felt understood. This moment was not a magic solution, but it was a beginning. Sarah realized that parenting is not only about teaching. It is also about learning to see the world through your child's eyes. But of course, life is never perfect. A few weeks later, Sarah discovered that Emma had been lying about her school projects. Instead of working, she had spent hours chatting with friends online. Sarah felt angry and betrayed. She wanted to shout, but she stopped herself. She asked, what will shouting do? Will it bring her closer or push her further away? Instead, she took a deep breath and said, "Emma, I'm disappointed, but I want to understand, Why didn't you tell me the truth? Emma hesitated, then whispered, Because I was afraid you'd be mad. This answer broke Sarah's heart, but it also opened her eyes. She realized that fear had entered their relationship, and fear was more dangerous than any bad grade. From that day, she promised herself to guide with firmness, but also with love, to discipline but never to humiliate, to correct but never to break her daughter's spirit. Raising children is a constant balance. Too much control can destroy trust. Too little control can lead to mistakes. Parents walk on a thin line, always adjusting, always questioning. Sarah understood this now. She was not perfect, but she was willing to grow with her daughter. So the question is, can parents truly balance love and discipline? Can they guide without controlling? And trust without being blind? What do you think? Write your answer in the comments, because your ideas may help another parent somewhere in the world. As we move forward, Sarah will face even deeper challenges, including peer pressure, the risk of bad habits, and the emotional storms of adolescence. But she will also discover surprising ways to reconnect with Emma, ways that will give both of them hope for the future. Stay tuned, listen carefully, and remember to repeat the phrases aloud. This practice will make your English stronger, while the story will make your heart wiser. Weeks passed, and Sarah slowly began to see both progress and setbacks. Some days, Emma seemed open, sharing her thoughts and laughing like the little girl she used to be. Other days, she locked herself in her room, angry at the world, angry at her parents, and sometimes even angry at herself. Sarah realized something important. Raising a teenager is not a straight road. It is more like climbing a mountain. Sometimes you move up, sometimes you slip back down, but the important thing is not to give up. One Saturday evening, Sarah overheard Emma talking on the phone. Her voice was low, but Sarah caught a few words. I don't care. I'll just go with them. My parents don't understand anyway. Sarah's heart raced. Who was Emma talking about? Where was she planning to go? Later that night, Sarah carefully approached her daughter. Emma, I heard you on the phone. Can we talk about it? Emma frowned. You're always listening to me. Can't you just trust me for once? Sarah felt torn. She wanted to protect her daughter, but she also wanted to respect her privacy. This is a dilemma many parents face. How much freedom should you give? And how much should you control? What do you think if you were Sarah? Would you insist on knowing everything? Or would you give Emma more space? Write your answer in the comments. The following week, the problem grew bigger. Sarah received a call from the school counselor. Emma had been caught skipping class with two older friends. They were not dangerous kids, but they were not a good influence either. Sarah felt a mix of anger, sadness, and fear. She thought about the times when she herself was a teenager. She remembered the temptations, the pressure to fit in, and the feeling that parents never understood. That night, Sarah and her husband had a long talk. We cannot ignore this anymore. Her husband said firmly, if Emma continues like this, she could get into serious trouble. Sarah agreed, but she also felt that shouting or punishing too harshly would only push Emma further away. She remembered the small progress they had made when she listened more. So instead of starting with anger, she decided to try empathy. She sat down with Emma the next day. Her voice was calm. Emma, I know you skipped class. I'm not here to punish you. I just want to understand. Why did you do it? Emma avoided her eyes at first, then muttered, because school feels useless sometimes. My friends make me feel happy. When I'm with them, I forget my problems. Sarah finally understood. Emma was not skipping class because she was lazy. She was skipping because she felt lost, and her friends gave her a sense of belonging. This is a reality many parents face. Children do not always make bad choices because they want to be rebellious. Sometimes they are simply searching for comfort, identity, or acceptance. The question is, how can parents guide them toward healthier choices without breaking that bond of trust? Sarah decided to share her own story. She told Emma about her teenage years, about how she too had skipped class once, about how she had followed friends instead of following her own dreams. Emma looked surprised. "You did that too, Mom?" "Yes," Sarah admitted, "and I learned the hard way that not all friends lead you in the right direction. But I also know how strong the desire to belong can be." For the first time, Emma listened without rolling her eyes. The conversation was not perfect, but it was real, and that gave Sarah hope. Still, new problems continued to appear. Emma began staying up late at night, scrolling endlessly on social media. She compared herself to other girls with prettier clothes, more followers, or perfect photos. One night, Sarah found her daughter crying quietly in bed. "Emma, what's wrong?" she asked gently. Emma whispered, "I'll never be good enough. Everyone else is better than me." This moment was heartbreaking. Sarah realized that Emma was not only struggling with discipline, but also with self-esteem. The modern world had given her daughter a mirror that was cruel and unforgiving. Sarah hugged her and said softly, "You are more than likes and followers. You are valuable because of who you are, not because of what people see online." But Sarah also knew that words alone were not enough. She needed to show Emma ways to rebuild her confidence. She encouraged Emma to return to her passion painting. They bought art supplies together, and Sarah gave her time and space to create. Slowly, Emma's eyes began to shine again when she painted. This became a turning point. Sarah learned that one of the best ways to guide a teenager is to help them discover healthy passions. Sports, art, music, volunteering, anything that gives them purpose beyond social media or peer pressure. Let me ask you, what activities do you think are best for teenagers to build confidence and stay away from negative habits? Sports, art, reading. Please write your ideas in the comments. Your answer might inspire another parent who is struggling. Of course, even with progress, the tension between freedom and rules continued. One evening, Emma wanted to go out to a late-night party. Sarah hesitated. She didn't want to be too strict, but she also worried about safety. "Emma," she said, "I want you to have fun, but I also need to know you're safe. Can we make an agreement? You can go, but you must come back by midnight, and I will pick you up." Emma groaned, but finally agreed. It was not perfect, but it was compromise. Sarah knew she could not control every detail of her daughter's life, but she could set boundaries that showed both trust and care. Parenting, she realized, is not about winning battles. It is about building bridges. Every conversation, every compromise, every hug was part of that bridge. But challenges were not over. Ahead lay the storm of deeper teenage emotions, bigger decisions, and the temptation of more dangerous habits. Sarah knew the hardest part was still to come. Would Emma choose the right path? Would their relationship survive the storm? We will explore these questions in the next part, where Sarah faces the biggest test of her motherhood, the test of letting go while still holding on. Until then, think about this. If you were Sarah, what would you do differently? Would you set stricter rules, or would you give more freedom? Comment your thoughts, and let's learn from each other's experiences. The weeks that followed were like a roller coaster for Sarah. Some days felt bright and hopeful, while others felt stormy and uncertain. Parenting a teenager, she thought, was like riding a bike on a road full of potholes. You had to keep moving, even if you hit a few bumps along the way. One Friday afternoon, Emma came home with a big smile on her face. Sarah felt relieved. Finally, she thought, a good day. But that relief quickly turned into surprise when Emma announced, "Mom, I joined a new club at school." Sarah's eyes lit up. "That's wonderful. Emma, what kind of club?" Emma grinned. "It's a skateboarding club." Sarah almost dropped the cup of tea in her hand. "Skateboarding. But you don't even know how to balance on a bike without falling." Emma laughed. "Exactly. That's why I want to learn." "Don't worry. Mom, I'll be fine." Sarah tried to smile, but in her heart, she pictured broken bones, hospital bills, and weeks of stress. Still, she decided to let Emma try. After all, she reminded herself, every passion starts with risk. And maybe skateboarding would keep Emma away from negative influences. The first practice session was unforgettable. Sarah insisted on coming along to watch. Emma rolled her eyes, but allowed it. At the skate park, Emma climbed on the board with confidence and immediately fell flat on her back. Sarah gasped, running toward her. But Emma sat up laughing. "See? Mom, no problem. Falling is part of learning." Sarah shook her head and muttered, "If falling is learning, you'll be a genius by next week." That moment was both funny and meaningful. Sarah realized that sometimes parents worry too much. Yes, there are dangers, but sometimes a little freedom, a little space to fail, is exactly what teenagers need. What do you think? Should parents allow their children to take risks, even if they might fail, or should they protect them from every possible danger? Share your answer in the comments. Still, not all of Emma's adventures were as harmless as skateboarding. Peer pressure was becoming stronger. One evening, she came home later than usual. Sarah tried to stay calm, but she noticed something different. Emma smelled faintly of smoke. Sarah's heart dropped. "Emma," she asked carefully, "were you near someone who was smoking?" Emma looked away. "It was nothing, Mom. Just some friends. I didn't do it." Sarah wanted to believe her, but doubt lingered. She remembered her promise to herself, to guide with love, not with anger. Instead of shouting, she took a deep breath and said, "Emma, I trust you, but I need you to know that some choices can change your life. If you ever feel pressured, please talk to me first." Emma gave a small nod. It wasn't a full answer, but it was a door that stayed open. The truth is, many teenagers face this exact challenge. Friends can influence them more than parents. The need to fit in is powerful. Sometimes, saying no feels harder than anything else. Parents often wonder, how do we protect our children from the world without locking them away from it? Sarah thought about this question often. She even joked to her husband, "Maybe we should just lock Emma in her room until she's 25. Her husband laughed. "Good idea, but she'd probably escape through the window." They both laughed, and the humor gave them strength. Parenting is heavy, but laughter can make the weight a little lighter. To help Emma, Sarah decided to focus on building trust and open communication. She started creating small rituals, a cup of tea together in the evening, short walks after dinner, or even cooking together on Sundays. Sometimes Emma joined happily, sometimes she refused. But Sarah kept trying, knowing that consistency was the key. One Sunday afternoon, while they were baking cookies, Sarah decided to ask a deeper question. "Emma, do you ever feel like I don't understand you?" Emma giggled as she licked cookie dough off her finger. All the time. Mom, but don't worry. I don't even understand myself half the time. They both laughed, and the conversation opened a new door. Humor, Sarah realized, could sometimes break walls faster than serious lectures. Have you ever tried using humor to solve a problem with your child, your friend, or even your partner? Did it work? Tell us your story in the comments. Still, beneath the laughter, Sarah knew there were real challenges ahead. Emma was entering a stage where choices could have serious consequences. Parties, relationships, and the temptation of experimenting with risky behaviors were becoming real possibilities. One night, Sarah received a message from another parent. Did you know Emma was at a party last weekend? Sarah felt her chest tighten. Emma had told her she was studying at a friend's house. When she confronted Emma, the conversation was tense. Emma, you lied to me. You said you were studying. Emma crossed her arms. I didn't want you to worry. Everyone was going. If I told you the truth, you'd have said no. Sarah's voice trembled, but she stayed calm. Emma, trust is like glass. Once it breaks, it's hard to fix. I need honesty more than anything else. Even if I don't like your choices, I'd rather know the truth than live in lies. Emma looked down, silent. For a moment, Sarah thought the wall between them had grown even higher. But then Emma whispered, I'm sorry, Mom. I just wanted to feel normal. Sarah hugged her tightly. Emma, you don't have to be like everyone else. You are unique. You are enough. That night, Sarah cried quietly in her room. She realized that parenting is not about controlling every move. It is about preparing your child to face the world, even when you are not there to protect them. In the middle of her tears, she laughed at a thought. Maybe I should have taken a parenting class before having kids. But who would sign up for a course called How to Survive Teenagers 101? Her husband laughed too, saying, it would be the most popular class in the world. Humor did not solve the problems, but it gave them strength to keep going. Sarah understood that parenting was not only about discipline or guidance. It was also about resilience, patience, and sometimes finding reasons to smile when the situation felt impossible. As the days went on, Sarah began to notice small changes. Emma was still stubborn, still testing boundaries, but she also seemed more willing to share. Maybe the balance of discipline, empathy, and even humor was slowly working. But the biggest test was yet to come. A moment was approaching that would challenge everything Sarah had learned. A situation that would demand not just patience and love, but courage and wisdom. What do you think this test could be? Have you ever faced a moment as a parent or as a teenager that changed everything? Share your thoughts in the comments. In the next part of the story, we will discover how Sarah faces this critical moment and how both mother and daughter grow from it. The night of the party incident stayed in Sarah's mind for a long time. Trust had been shaken, and even though Emma apologized, the wound was still fresh. Sarah reminded herself every day, this is not the end. This is just another lesson. But deep inside, she feared that something bigger was coming, something that would truly test her as a mother. It happened one Thursday evening. Sarah was cleaning the kitchen when she received a call from an unknown number. On the other end was a teacher from Emma's school. Mrs. Thompson, the voice said. I'm sorry to tell you that Emma was caught cheating on a test today. For a moment, Sarah couldn't breathe. Her daughter, her smart, creative, passionate daughter had cheated. She felt shock, anger, sadness, and confusion all at once. When Emma came home, Sarah didn't shout. She sat her daughter down and said softly, "Emma, I need you to tell me the truth. What happened today?" Emma's eyes filled with tears. "Mom, I didn't study enough. I was afraid to fail. Everyone else seemed so perfect, and I just wanted to keep up. I didn't know what else to do." Sarah's heart broke. She wanted to be angry, but she also saw the fear in her daughter's eyes, the fear of failure, the pressure of expectations, the weight of trying to be good enough. "Emma," Sarah said gently, "cheating doesn't make you a failure. It makes you human, but hiding the truth will only make things worse. Do you understand?" Emma nodded silently, tears running down her cheeks. At that moment, Sarah remembered her own school days, the times when she too had felt the heavy pressure of tests and grades. She realized that Emma wasn't rebelling against her. She was rebelling against her own fear. This is a reality many parents and teenagers face. The pressure to succeed can be so strong that mistakes feel unforgivable. But Sarah knew she had to turn this failure into a lesson. "Emma," she said, "we're going to fix this. You will talk to your teacher, apologize, and accept the consequence. But I want you to know this. Your value is not measured by grades. It is measured by your honesty, your courage, and your kindness." Emma cried harder, but this time she hugged her mother tightly. It was a painful moment, but also a healing one. "Let me ask you, do you think parents sometimes put too much pressure on their children to succeed? How can parents balance encouragement and expectations without creating fear?" Share your thoughts in the comments. The days after the cheating incident were difficult. Emma had to face the consequences at school, and Sarah had to face her own doubts as a parent. Was she guiding Emma too much? Or not enough? Was she focusing on results instead of relationships? To lighten the mood, Sarah tried to bring humor into the situation. One evening, as they sat at the dinner table, she said, "Well, Emma, at least you're not a professional bank robber. Cheating on a test is easier to fix than stealing millions." Emma laughed through her tears. "Mom, that's the worst comparison ever." "But it worked," Sarah replied, smiling. And it did work. Humor broke the tension, reminding them that mistakes, while serious, do not have to define a person forever. Still, the road was not smooth. Emma's self-esteem dropped after the incident. She doubted herself more, sometimes saying, "I'll never be good at anything." Sarah refused to let that thought grow. She encouraged Emma to return to painting, reminding her that creativity is just as valuable as academics. They spent evenings together, Sarah cooking in the kitchen while Emma painted at the table. Sometimes Emma showed her mother her art. Sometimes she stayed quiet. But in those small moments of silence, trust slowly began to rebuild. One Saturday, Sarah suggested something new. "Emma, how about we volunteer together this weekend? There's a community centre that needs help. Maybe teaching younger kids some art." Emma looked doubtful. "Me? Teach? I can't even control myself." Sarah smiled. "Exactly. You'll learn while helping, and maybe you'll see that your mistakes don't define your future." Reluctantly, Emma agreed. That weekend, they spent hours at the community centre, surrounded by children who were excited to learn. Emma guided them with patience, showing them how to mix colours, how to draw shapes, how to express themselves. At the end of the day, one little girl gave Emma a picture she had drawn and said, "Thank you, teacher." Emma's eyes widened, and for the first time in weeks, she smiled with real confidence. "Mom," she whispered. Maybe I'm not useless after all. Sarah felt tears in her eyes, but she hid them behind a smile. She realized that sometimes the best way to heal is not to focus on your own problems, but to help someone else. Have you ever experienced this? That by helping others, you actually find healing yourself? Share your story in the comments. That night, as Sarah and Emma walked home, they laughed together. Emma even joked, "If I ever become famous, I'll tell the world that my career started with teaching kids how to paint stick figures." Sarah laughed so hard she nearly dropped her bag. "Then I'll tell the world I'm the proud mother of the stick figure queen." The humor brought them closer, but Sarah knew deeper challenges were still ahead. Peer pressure, identity, future choices, all of these would test their relationship again and again. But she also knew this. Every challenge so far had taught them something. The cheating incident had taught them about honesty. The party incident had taught them about trust. The volunteering had taught them about purpose. Parenting, Sarah realized, is not about avoiding storms. It is about learning how to dance in the rain with your child. Still, as much as she tried to stay positive, Sarah felt fear about the future. Would Emma be strong enough to resist harmful influences? Would she make wise choices about relationships, about friends, about her own dreams? The story was not finished. In fact, it was only beginning. In the next part, we will see how Emma faces one of the toughest decisions of her teenage years, one that could shape her future forever. And we will see how Sarah, as a mother, must learn to guide not with control, but with trust and wisdom. So let me ask you, if you were in Sarah's place, what lesson would you try to teach your child? First discipline, honesty, or independence? Write your answer in the comments, because your perspective could help another parent who is struggling right now. As Emma grew older, the choices she faced became heavier, carrying consequences that could shape her future. For Sarah, each day felt like walking on a thin line between trust and fear. She wanted to give her daughter freedom, but she also wanted to protect her from harm. One evening, Sarah found Emma sitting quietly in her room, staring at her sketchbook. The usual sound of pencils scratching paper was missing. Instead, Emma's face looked troubled, her eyes full of uncertainty. "Emma, what's wrong?" Sarah asked gently. Emma hesitated, then whispered, "Mom, I was offered something today. My friends want me to join them for a trip next weekend. They said it's just for fun, but I think they might be doing things I don't feel comfortable with." Sarah's chest tightened. She didn't want to jump to conclusions, but she knew exactly what Emma meant. Teenagers sometimes experiment with drinking, smoking, or worse. She took a deep breath. "And what do you want? Emma, do you really want to go?" Emma looked down at her hands. "Part of me wants to say yes, because I don't want to lose my friends, but another part of me feels it's not right. I don't know what to do." This was the moment Sarah had feared, but also the moment she had been preparing for. She knew she could not simply say, "No, you can't go." That would only push Emma away. Instead, she had to guide her toward making her own decision. "Emma," Sarah said softly, "sometimes the hardest thing in life is saying no when everyone else says yes, but that choice defines who you are. Do you want to follow the crowd, or do you want to follow yourself?" Emma stayed silent, but Sarah could see the conflict in her eyes. This situation is one many parents and teenagers understand. The desire to belong can be stronger than the desire to do what is right. And often, the fear of being left out feels unbearable. Have you ever experienced this? Have you ever said yes to something you didn't truly want, just to fit in. Share your experience in the comments. That night, Sarah stayed awake for hours, wondering what decision her daughter would make. She realized that no matter what she said, the final choice was Emma's. She could guide, she could advise, but she could not live her daughter's life. The next morning, something surprising happened. Emma came to the kitchen with her sketchbook in her hands. "Mom," she said, "I decided not to go on that trip. Instead, I want to spend the weekend working on a new art project. Maybe I'll even enter the school art competition." Sarah felt tears well up in her eyes. She hugged her daughter tightly. "Emma, I'm proud of you. Not because of the competition, but because you listened to your own heart." Emma smiled shyly. "It wasn't easy. I'm afraid my friends will be mad at me." Sarah held her shoulders. "Real friends will respect your choices. If they don't, maybe they aren't the right friends for you." This moment was a victory, not just for Emma, but for both mother and daughter. It showed that trust, patience, and honest conversations could truly guide a teenager toward better decisions. But life is never free from challenges. A few weeks later, Emma received her competition results. She didn't win. Her painting, which she had worked on for hours, was not selected for the final round. Emma was devastated. She locked herself in her room, crying silently. When Sarah knocked on the door, Emma shouted, "Just leave me alone. I'm a failure." Sarah stood outside the door, her heart aching. She wanted to remind her daughter of all the progress she had made. She wanted to say, "This is not the end." But she knew that in moments of disappointment, words often sound empty. So she did something different. She left a small note under Emma's door. The note said, "Emma, I love you not because of what you win or lose, but because of who you are. Your art is beautiful because it comes from your heart. Take your time. I'm here when you're ready." Hours later, Emma opened the door with tears still in her eyes, but a soft smile on her lips. She hugged her mother without saying a word. In that silence, Sarah knew her message had reached her daughter's heart. This is a powerful reminder. Sometimes love is not about long speeches. Sometimes it's about small gestures that show support without pressure. Let me ask you, have you ever felt like a failure after working so hard on something? How did you recover? Share your answer in the comments. You never know who your story might inspire. In the days that followed, Sarah and Emma found ways to turn the disappointment into growth. Sarah encouraged Emma to keep painting, not for competitions, but for joy. She told her, "The value of your art is not in prizes, but in the way it makes you and others feel." Emma slowly regained her confidence. She even joked one evening, "Well, if I can't win an art contest, maybe I'll just open a cookie shop instead. My chocolate chip cookies are definitely award-winning." Sarah laughed so hard that tears rolled down her cheeks. "Fine," she said, "but only if I get free cookies for life." Humor once again became their medicine. It softened the pain of failure and reminded them that life was bigger than one competition. But deep down, Sarah knew that her daughter's struggles with self-worth were not over. The teenage years are full of ups and downs, victories, failures, friendships, heartbreaks. Each one leaves a mark, and Sarah's role as a mother was not to erase those marks, but to help Emma see them as part of her growth. One evening, as they watched the sunset together, Emma asked softly, "Mom, do you ever feel scared about me? About the choices I'll make in the future?" Sarah was quiet for a moment, then answered honestly, "Yes, Emma, I feel scared every day. But my love for you is bigger than my fear. I believe in you, even when you don't believe in yourself." Emma leaned against her shoulder. "Thanks. Mom, I think I'll need that belief for a long time. Sarah smiled and whispered, and you'll have it. Always. But even as they shared this moment of peace, Sarah knew another challenge was waiting just around the corner. Because life with teenagers is never a straight path. It's a journey full of unexpected turns. In the next part of the story, we will see how Sarah faces one of the hardest challenges yet, guiding her daughter through her first experience with heartbreak, and helping her understand that love, like life, can be both beautiful and painful. Before we move on, let me ask you, what advice would you give a teenager about facing failure or disappointment? Share your thoughts in the comments, because your wisdom might help someone who needs it right now. The seasons changed, and with them came new emotions in Emma's life. At 16, she experienced something she had only read about in books and seen in movies. Her first real crush, his name was Daniel, a boy from her art class who loved music and had a smile that seemed to light up the whole room. Emma spent hours talking about him at the dinner table. Her eyes sparkled when she described how he played the guitar during lunch breaks, or how he always remembered to say good morning. Sarah listened patiently, her heart both warmed and worried. She knew these feelings were natural, but she also knew they could lead to heartbreak. One afternoon, Emma came home quieter than usual. She didn't run to her room to sketch. She didn't hum her usual tunes. Instead, she dropped her school bag and sank into the sofa. Sarah sensed something was wrong. She sat beside her daughter and gently asked, "Emma, did something happen today?" Emma's voice cracked. "Mom, Daniel told me he likes someone else. He said I'm a good friend. But that's all." Tears streamed down her cheeks, and she buried her face in her hands. Sarah's chest ached as she watched her daughter's first heartbreak unfold. She reached out, wrapping her arms around Emma. "Oh, sweetheart, I know this hurts," Sarah whispered. "Your first love is always the hardest. Because it feels so new and so deep." Emma cried harder. "I feel so stupid. Mom, I thought he liked me. I thought maybe we could be something." Sarah kissed her head gently. "You are not stupid, Emma. Caring for someone, even if they don't return the same feelings, is not a weakness. It's a sign of your beautiful heart." For hours, Sarah stayed by Emma's side, offering tissues, hugs, and silence when words were too much. She remembered her own teenage years, the sting of rejection, the nights spent crying into her pillow. It was a pain no parent could erase for their child, but she could at least make sure Emma didn't face it alone. Have you ever had your heart broken for the first time? How did you cope with it? Share your story in the comments. It may help someone going through the same pain right now. The days that followed were heavy. Emma avoided her sketchbook. She skipped meals. She stayed in bed longer than usual, scrolling endlessly on her phone. Sarah grew worried. She wanted to pull her daughter out of the sadness, but she knew healing takes time. One evening, Sarah knocked on Emma's door holding 2 cups of hot chocolate. "Mind if I come in?" she asked. Emma shrugged. "Sure." Sarah handed her the cup. "You know," she said with a small smile, "I once cried for 3 days straight because a boy didn't like me back. I was convinced my life was over. But then, a week later, I found myself laughing at a silly joke my friend told me. That's when I realized life doesn't end with heartbreak. It just bends a little, then keeps moving." Emma looked at her mom, surprised. "Really? You cried too?" Sarah chuckled. "Of course. Every teenager thinks their first heartbreak is the end of the world. But, sweetheart, it's just the beginning of understanding what love really is." That conversation opened a small door. Slowly, Emma began to talk more, sharing her sadness instead of hiding it. She admitted how much it hurt to see Daniel with someone else, how embarrassed she felt for believing in something that wasn't there. Sarah listened without judgment. She told Emma that pain is part of growing up, but it doesn't define who she is. You are not less because someone didn't choose you, she reminded her. You are still you, smart, kind, talented, and full of dreams. A week later, Sarah suggested something new. Emma, let's paint together this weekend. Not for a competition, not for school, just for fun. Emma hesitated, then agreed. On Saturday morning, they spread canvases on the living room floor, opened jars of paint, and let colours splash freely. Sarah painted clumsy flowers while Emma painted a stormy sky with rays of light breaking through. As Emma worked, she whispered, "It feels like me, Mom." Dark clouds, but with some light. Sarah smiled. That's beautiful. That's healing. Through painting, laughter, and shared stories, Emma's spirit slowly began to lift. But Sarah knew this was not just about one boy. It was about teaching her daughter resilience. Heartbreak was only the first of many storms Emma would face in life. Sarah wanted her to understand that every storm passes and every wound teaches something new. Emma, Sarah said one evening, love is not about always getting what you want. It's about learning who you are, what you value, and how strong your heart can be. One day, you will meet someone who sees your worth without you having to prove it. Until then, every experience, even the painful ones, helps you grow. Emma nodded slowly. I hope so. Right now, it just feels empty. Sarah squeezed her hand. And that's okay. Healing takes time. Don't rush it. One day, you'll look back at this and realize it made you stronger. Have you ever looked back at a painful moment and realized it made you stronger? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your reflections. Weeks passed, and little by little, Emma laughed again. She started sketching, playing music with friends, and even teasing her mum about her terrible singing in the kitchen. Sarah felt relief wash over her. Her daughter had survived her first heartbreak. But deep down, Sarah also knew this was only one chapter. Teenage years held more surprises, friendships tested, choices challenged, dreams reshaped. The road ahead would not always be easy. Still, she reminded herself of something important. Parenting was not about protecting Emma from every pain. It was about walking beside her, offering guidance, love, and belief in her strength. And just as Emma found her light again, another challenge appeared on the horizon, one that tested not just her heart, but also her values and her future. In the next part, we will see how Emma faces pressure from her peers to take risks that could change her life path, and how Sarah must once again guide her with patience and wisdom. Before we move forward, I'd like to ask you, what advice would you give to a teenager experiencing their first heartbreak? Your words could bring comfort to someone watching this video right now. Emma was 17 now. The heartbreak had healed, though it had left behind quiet lessons in her heart. She had grown wiser, but with age also came new pressures. High school was not just about classes and homework anymore. It was about fitting in, choosing a direction for the future, and deciding what kind of person she wanted to be. Sarah noticed the change. Emma no longer talked about simple things like books or art. Her conversations became more about her friends, parties, and the expectations swirling around her. Sarah listened carefully, sensing that something heavier was coming. One Friday night, Emma came home late from hanging out with her friends. She looked uneasy, her smile forced. Sarah asked gently, "How was your evening?" Emma hesitated. It was fine, but her tone betrayed her. Sarah sat down beside her. "Emma, I can always tell when something is bothering you. Do you want to talk about it?" After a long pause, Emma whispered, "Mom, my friends, they asked me to try something tonight, something I didn't want to do." Sarah's heart tightened. What was it? Emma looked down. They had alcohol, and some of them even had something stronger. They kept telling me, "It's no big deal. Everyone does it. Don't be a child." "Emma," I said no, but they laughed at me. They made me feel like I didn't belong. Sarah took a deep breath. This was the moment she had both feared and prepared for. Peer pressure, the invisible force that could twist even the strongest young mind. "Emma," she said softly, "I am so proud of you for saying no. That takes courage. Many people give in because they want to be accepted. But you listened to yourself instead of just following the crowd." Emma frowned, "But it feels so lonely." "Mom, I don't want them to think I'm boring or weak. Sometimes I wonder if it would be easier to just go along." Sarah reached for her daughter's hands. "Sweetheart, being true to yourself is never weakness. It's strength. And let me tell you something, friends who laugh at you for doing the right thing are not real friends. They don't deserve the best parts of you." Viewers, let me ask you, have you ever faced peer pressure that made you feel trapped between fitting in and staying true to yourself? What did you do? Share your story in the comments. You might inspire someone who is struggling right now. Emma listened, but her mind was still restless. The next week, the same friends invited her to another gathering. This time, they pressured her even harder. "Come on, Emma," one boy said, holding out a drink. "It's just for fun. Don't be so serious all the time." Her best friend Lily, however, looked at her differently. "You don't have to, Emma," she whispered. "I'll stick with you." That moment gave Emma strength. She refused again, though she could feel the disappointment of the group. When she came home, she told Sarah what had happened. Sarah smiled. "See, you found your light in Lily. Real friends support your choices instead of mocking them." But Emma sighed. "It's still hard. Mom, sometimes I feel like the world is testing me, like I'm supposed to prove myself every day." Sarah nodded. "That's exactly what growing up feels like. The world will always test you. But every test is also a chance to decide who you are and who you're becoming." To lighten the mood, Sarah added with a laugh, "And if anyone ever calls you boring, tell them you're saving your energy to paint masterpieces while they're stuck with hangovers." Emma giggled through her tears. "Mom, you're ridiculous." "Yes," Sarah said with a grin, "but it works. Doesn't it?" Humor helped, but Sarah knew the real challenge was teaching Emma to build inner strength. That night, she shared a story from her own youth. "When I was your age," Sarah said, "my friends wanted me to skip school and go to the movies. They said it was harmless, but I had an important exam the next day. I almost gave in. Almost. But then I thought about what kind of person I wanted to be, not just that day, but in the future, and I chose to stay home. It wasn't easy, but I never regretted it. That choice gave me confidence in myself." Emma listened closely. "So, every choice builds who we are." "Exactly," Sarah said. "Each decision is like a brushstroke on the canvas of your life. Some strokes are light, some are heavy, but together they create your picture. You have the power to decide what that picture looks like." That metaphor stayed with Emma. The next time she was tested, she imagined herself painting Did she want her canvas filled with colours of strength, self-respect, and growth, or smudged with regrets? As weeks turned into months, Sarah saw her daughter standing taller. Emma began choosing her company more carefully. She spent more time with Lily and others who shared her love for art, music, and dreaming big. The negative voices grew quieter. Still, Sarah never stopped guiding gently over late-night teas. She would ask questions instead of giving lectures. "What do you think you'll feel tomorrow if you make this choice today?" she would ask. Emma learned to pause, reflect, and answer honestly. Parents watching this, have you tried asking questions instead of giving commands? How do you guide your teenager without making them feel controlled? Leave your tips in the comments. Your advice could help another parent here. Sarah knew parenting was not about winning every battle. It was about giving Emma the tools to fight her own battles with confidence. Peer pressure would always exist in high school, in college, even in adulthood. But if Emma could learn now to trust her own voice, she would carry that strength forever. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Emma said quietly, "Mom, thank you for listening, for not judging me, for letting me figure things out while still being here." Sarah's eyes welled with tears. "That's my job, Emma, to walk beside you, not in front of you." The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in pink and orange, Emma's canvas. Still unfinished, full of possibilities. But just when Sarah thought things might settle down, another challenge emerged. This time, it wasn't about friends or peer pressure. It was about Emma's future, her dreams, her education, and the question every teenager faces: what comes next? And with that, a new chapter in their story began. Before we move into the next part, I'd love to hear from you. What would you say to a teenager who feels pressured to follow the crowd? Your words could give courage to someone watching this video today. That's the end of part 8, about 950 words. Do you want me to continue with part 9, where Emma struggles with her future college, career, and the weight of expectations from both herself and her family? You said Part 9 to 900 Gen 1002. ChatGPT said, "Perfect. Let's move into part 9 of the script, 900 1000 words. This section will follow smoothly from part 8, focusing on Emma's struggles with her future, choosing college, career paths, and dealing with expectations, both her own and her family's. Part 9. Script approx 900 1000 words. Emma was now standing at one of the biggest crossroads of her young life. High school was nearing its end, and with it came the questions that seemed to echo everywhere. What comes next? College, work, a gap year, a dream to follow. Everyone had something to say, but Emma wasn't sure what her own voice was telling her. Sarah watched her daughter wrestle with the weight of the future. Emma's once confident steps had slowed. She spent long hours sketching in her notebook, doodling images of roads splitting in different directions, arrows pointing everywhere. One evening, Sarah found her sitting quietly on the porch, staring into the twilight. "Emma, what's on your mind?" she asked gently. Emma sighed. "Mom, everyone keeps asking me about college, about my major, about my career. I don't even know what I want for dinner tomorrow, let alone the rest of my life. What if I make the wrong choice?" Sarah sat beside her, folding her hands. "It's okay not to have all the answers right now. Life is not about one perfect choice. It's about choices that lead you forward. Step by step, you learn, you grow, and sometimes you even change your path. That's not failure. Emma, that's life. But Emma shook her head. You don't understand. All my friends seem to know exactly what they want. Medicine, law, engineering. Meanwhile, I only know that I love art. But everyone says it's not practical. They say I'll never make a living with it. Sarah's heart ached at the fear in her daughter's voice. Emma, listen to me. Practicality matters, yes, but so does passion. The challenge is finding a way to honor both. Your art is not just a hobby, it's part of who you are. Don't let anyone dismiss that, viewers. Let me pause to ask you, when you were young, did you struggle with choosing a path for your future? Did you feel pressure to follow what others expected instead of what you truly wanted? Share your story in the comments. I believe your experiences can help inspire others here. Sarah wanted to give Emma perspective, so she shared a memory. When I was your age, Sarah said, I dreamed of becoming a writer. Everyone told me it wasn't realistic. They pushed me toward teaching. I chose teaching, and I don't regret it. It gave me stability, a community, and later, a chance to write anyway. But the truth is, I didn't have to give up one dream for the other. I could weave them together. Life isn't either or. Emma, sometimes it's both. Emma listened. Her brow furrowed. So, I don't have to choose just one. Not always, Sarah replied. Some paths can be blended, and even if you start in one direction, you can pivot later. The important thing is to keep moving forward, to keep learning. Emma looked unconvinced. But what if I fail? What if I disappoint you? Sarah turned to her daughter with tears in her eyes. Emma, nothing you do could ever make me stop being proud of you. Success isn't about money or titles. It's about living honestly, treating people kindly, and growing into yourself. If you stay true to those things, you will never disappoint me. Emma leaned against her mother's shoulder, comforted but still wrestling inside. The next week, Sarah suggested visiting a few universities together. They toured campuses, sat in on lectures, and spoke with students. Emma was inspired by the energy of the art departments, the smell of paint, the studios buzzing with creativity. But she was also drawn to the structure of communication studies, the idea of blending visual art with storytelling. That night, Emma said, maybe I don't have to choose between passion and practicality. Maybe I can study something that uses both. Sarah smiled. Exactly. That's what I hoped you'd see. But the journey was far from over. At a family gathering, Emma's uncle asked bluntly, So, Emma, what are you going to do with your life? Don't tell me you're wasting time on art. The world is tough. You need a real career. Emma froze, embarrassed. She glanced at her mother, who stepped in calmly. Thank you for your concern, Sarah said. But Emma is exploring her options. She's smart, creative, and determined. Whatever she chooses, she'll make it meaningful. Afterward, Emma whispered, Thanks for standing up for me, Mom. Sometimes I feel like no one understands. Sarah hugged her. You don't have to explain yourself to everyone. What matters is that you're building a future that feels right for you. Viewers, what do you think? Should teenagers follow passion first or security first? Or should they look for a way to balance both? Leave your opinion in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. As weeks passed, Emma began to build clarity. She applied to colleges with strong art and communication programs. She started an online portfolio, posting her sketches and short stories. Slowly, she realized that her path didn't have to be fixed. It could evolve with her. Sarah, meanwhile, reminded her of something essential. Your future is not just about career. It's also about who you want to be as a person. Don't forget to think about values, relationships, and the kind of life that makes you feel alive. Emma nodded. I want a life where I can create, connect with people, and help others feel something real. Even if I'm not famous or rich, I want to make a difference. Sarah smiled, tears shining in her eyes. Then you already know your direction. You just have to trust it. It was a tender moment, but parenting was never without humor. That evening, Sarah added playfully, but before you change the world, maybe start with changing your socks. They've been on since yesterday, haven't they? Emma laughed, throwing a pillow at her. Mom, seriously? Yes, seriously. Sarah grinned. A future leader needs fresh socks. Laughter broke the tension, reminding them both that even in heavy times, joy had its place. As the school year neared its end, Emma was still nervous, but she was no longer paralyzed. She had choices. She had support, and most importantly, she had faith that her journey could be uniquely hers. And just as Sarah thought they were finding balance, another challenge appeared, not about college or careers this time, but about love, independence, and the boundaries between parent and child. Before we move into that, let me ask you, if you could give one piece of advice to a teenager facing the future with uncertainty, what would it be? Share it below. Your words may be exactly what someone out there needs to hear today. Emma was now 17, standing at one of the most significant crossroads of her young life. High school was coming to an end, and with it came the pressure of choices. A college, career paths, and what kind of person she wanted to become. For the first time, she felt the weight of her decisions pressing down on her chest. And even small things, like what to do on a Saturday night, felt monumental. Sarah noticed the change. Emma no longer spent hours sketching or humming songs in the kitchen. Her conversations became heavier, filled with uncertainty, questions, and the weight of expectations from her friends, teachers, and even herself. One evening, Sarah found her daughter sitting on the porch, staring blankly at the twilight sky. Emma, what's on your mind? Sarah asked gently, sitting beside her. Emma sighed deeply. Mom, everyone keeps asking about college, my major, my career. I don't even know what I want for dinner tomorrow, let alone the rest of my life. What if I make the wrong choice? Sarah reached for her daughter's hands, holding them warmly. It's okay not to have all the answers right now. Life isn't about one perfect choice. It's about making decisions that move you forward. Step by step, you learn, you grow, and sometimes you even change paths. That's not failure, Emma. That's life. Emma's brow furrowed. But Mom, all my friends seem to know exactly what they want: medicine, law, engineering. Meanwhile, I only know that I love art. But everyone says it's not practical. They say I'll never make a living with it. Sarah's heart ached at the fear in her daughter's voice. Emma, passion is just as important as practicality. You don't have to sacrifice one for the other. Your art is not just a hobby, it's part of who you are. It gives your life meaning and your soul freedom. She paused and added, I know it's scary. The world likes to measure success with numbers and titles, but real success comes from living in alignment with who you are. Viewers, let me ask you, did you ever feel pressured to choose a path because others expected it? Even when your heart said otherwise, share your experience in the comments. It may help someone watching this video today, Sarah continued, sharing a story from her own youth. When I was your age, I dreamed of becoming a writer. Everyone told me it wasn't realistic, so I studied teaching instead. It gave me stability and the chance to share knowledge. But I never gave up writing. Later, I could merge my teaching and writing, creating something meaningful. Life is not always about choosing one path. It's about weaving your dreams together with reality. Emma's eyes widened slightly. So I don't have to choose just one thing. Exactly, Sarah said. Sometimes paths can be blended. Even if you start in one direction, you can pivot later. The key is to keep moving forward and learning along the way. Emma hesitated. But what if I fail? What if I disappoint you? Sarah shook her head gently. Nothing you do could ever make me stop being proud of you. Success is not about money or fame. It's about living honestly, growing, treating people kindly, and building a life that feels true to you. If you follow that, you can never truly fail. That night, Sarah suggested visiting some colleges together. They toured campuses, sat in on classes, and visited art studios buzzing with students. Emma was captivated by the creativity around her. Yet, she also felt drawn to communications and media programs that blended storytelling with art. Maybe I don't have to choose between passion and practicality. Emma whispered that evening. Maybe I can find something that uses both. Sarah smiled, tears welling in her eyes. Exactly. That's what I hoped you'd see. Your future doesn't have to fit into anyone else's mold. But challenges didn't disappear. At a family gathering, Emma's uncle asked bluntly, "So, what are you going to do with your life? Don't tell me you're wasting time on art. The world is tough. You need a real career." Emma froze, embarrassed. She glanced at Sarah, who calmly responded, "Emma is exploring her options. She's smart, creative, and determined. Whatever she chooses, she'll make it meaningful afterward." Emma whispered, "Thanks, Mom. Sometimes I feel like no one understands." Sarah hugged her tightly. "You don't have to explain yourself to everyone. What matters is building a future that feels right to you." As the weeks passed, Emma gained clarity. She applied to colleges that offered strong programs in both art and communications, started an online portfolio, and shared her sketches and short stories. Slowly, she realized her path didn't have to be fixed. It could evolve with her growth, curiosity, and creativity. Sarah reminded her gently, "Your future is not just about career. It's also about the person you want to become, your values, your friendships, the way you treat others, and the way you make life meaningful. These matter just as much." Emma nodded thoughtfully. "I want a life where I can create, connect with people, and make a difference. Even if I'm not famous or rich, I want to contribute something real." Sarah smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "Then you already know your direction. You just have to trust it." Even in these serious moments, Sarah added humor. "But before you save the world, maybe start with changing your socks. They've been on since yesterday, haven't they?" Emma laughed, throwing a pillow at her mother. "Mom, yes," Sarah said, grinning. "A future leader needs fresh socks." Through laughter and guidance, Emma began to feel empowered. She had choices, support, and growing confidence in her own voice. But Sarah knew life's challenges were far from over. Another test about independence, responsibility, and making decisions without constant guidance was on the horizon. Before moving to the next part, let me ask you, what advice would you give a teenager standing at a crossroads in life? Unsure of which path to take, share your thoughts in the comments. Your insight might inspire someone who is struggling right now. Emma was now entering the final year of high school. With her college application submitted and a clearer vision of her future, she began craving more independence. She wanted to make her own decisions, explore the world, and even experience first love. Sarah noticed the shift immediately. Emma no longer asked for permission to hang out with friends. She started planning weekends on her own, sometimes coming home later than expected. Sarah's protective instincts stirred, but she reminded herself that trust was part of growing up. One Friday evening, Emma came home with excitement in her eyes. "Mom, I met someone," she said, practically bouncing in the kitchen. Sarah smiled warmly, keeping her voice calm. "Oh, someone special." Emma nodded, cheeks flushed. "Yes, his name is Lucas. We met at a weekend art workshop. He's really nice. And we've been talking for a few weeks. We're thinking about going to the movies tomorrow." Sarah's heart swelled with a mixture of joy and caution. "I'm glad you met someone you like. But remember, Emma, the important thing is to respect yourself and your values. If anything feels wrong, you have the right to say no." Emma rolled her eyes playfully. "Mom, I'm not a little kid. I know how to make good choices." Sarah laughed. "I know, sweetie, but sometimes even adults need reminders." This was a new challenge for Sarah. Letting go was never easy. She wanted Emma to experience life fully, including friendship and romance, but she also wanted to protect her from heartbreak or poor decisions. The next weekend, Emma went to the movies with Lucas and returned home later than expected. She was glowing with happiness, eager to tell her mother about the evening. "He's so funny, Mom. We laughed the whole time, and he even bought me popcorn," Emma said, beaming. Sarah smiled, masking the worry in her chest. "That's great. Emma, I'm happy you had a good time." Emma paused, looking thoughtful. "Mom, I think I like him." Sarah's heart fluttered. She hugged her daughter gently. "It's wonderful to feel this way. Emma, just remember, feelings are beautiful, but don't let them rush you into anything you're not ready for. Always keep your values close." Have you ever had your first crush or first romantic experience? How did it feel? Share your story in the comments. It could bring comfort to someone experiencing the same excitement and nervousness. Over the next few months, Emma's social life became more active. She balanced school, college preparation, and her growing friendships. Including her relationship with Lucas, Sarah noticed that Emma's confidence was growing, but so was the complexity of her life. One evening, Sarah asked, "Emma, how are you managing everything: school, friends, Lucas, and your art?" Emma hesitated. "It's a lot sometimes. Mom, I like him, but I also want to focus on myself and my future. It's hard to balance everything." Sarah nodded. That's exactly what adulthood is like. Life isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about managing priorities and knowing what matters most in each moment. To help Emma understand, Sarah shared a story from her own youth. "When I was your age, I wanted to do so many things at once: study, write, hang out with friends, and start new hobbies. I learned the hard way that balance is key. You can't give your heart, energy, and time to everything at once. But if you focus on what aligns with your values, life becomes manageable." Emma reflected on this. So it's okay to say no to some things, even if I really want to do them. Absolutely, Sarah said. Saying no is a sign of strength, not weakness. It protects your heart and your future. As weeks passed, Emma faced her first challenge in the relationship with Lucas. He wanted to spend more time together than she felt comfortable with, and some of his friends pressured her to participate in activities she wasn't ready for. Emma came home one evening, tears in her eyes. "Mom, I don't know what to do. I like him, but I also want to stay true to myself. I feel torn." Sarah hugged her tightly. "Emma, This is exactly why I've been teaching you to trust your own voice. You don't have to do anything just because someone else wants you to. Your feelings, comfort, and boundaries matter first. Emma wiped her tears and nodded. I think I need to talk to him and explain how I feel. I don't want to lose him. But I also don't want to lose myself. Sarah smiled proudly. That's very brave. Emma, real relationships are built on respect and communication. If he cares about you, he'll understand. The next day, Emma had a calm conversation with Lucas, explaining her boundaries and values. Lucas listened and respected her perspective. This experience gave Emma a profound sense of empowerment. She realized that love does not require giving up who she is. Sarah, watching her daughter navigate this emotional terrain, felt a mix of pride and relief. She realized parenting is not about controlling every moment, but about equipping your child with tools to make wise, authentic choices. One night, as they sat on the porch sipping tea, Emma said softly, "Mom, thank you for letting me make mistakes, but also for guiding me. I feel like I'm learning to trust myself." Sarah kissed her forehead. "That's my goal. Emma, you are growing into a strong, thoughtful, and independent young woman. I couldn't be prouder." They laughed together, and Sarah added playfully, "But remember, even adults sometimes need reminders, like checking their socks before changing the world." Emma laughed, throwing a pillow at her mother. "Mom, yes," Sarah said, grinning. "Even future leaders need fresh socks." Through humor, guidance, and love, Sarah helped Emma learn independence while keeping the connection between them strong. This balance would prepare Emma for adulthood full of choices, challenges, and the courage to face them with integrity. But Sarah also knew that life's lessons were never over. More challenges would come, first jobs, deeper relationships, and the responsibility of becoming her own person in a complex world. For now, she cherished the moments of laughter, learning, and love with her daughter, knowing that this foundation would carry Emma through anything. Before moving into the next chapter, let me ask you, how do you balance letting your child explore independence while staying connected as a parent? Share your advice in the comments. It could help another family navigate this delicate journey. Emma's first year of college arrived faster than Sarah could imagine. Packing her bags felt surreal, not just a physical move, but a symbolic step into the world as an independent young woman. Sarah helped her organize essentials, giving advice while trying not to overwhelm her daughter. As they loaded the last box into the car, Emma looked at Sarah, her eyes bright but nervous. "Mom, I'm excited, but I'm scared too. What if I fail? What if I can't handle it?" Sarah took a deep breath, holding her daughter's hands. "Emma, you are ready. You've faced heartbreak, peer pressure, and tough choices before. College is just another step in your journey. Remember everything you've learned, trust yourself, communicate openly, and stay true to your values. You'll handle this, I promise." Emma nodded, taking comfort in her mother's words. "Thanks, Mom. I feel like I've grown so much because of you." Sarah smiled, fighting back tears. "And I've grown because of you. Emma, you've taught me patience, courage, and the power of letting go while still being there." The first weeks of college were a whirlwind for Emma. She struggled with new routines, difficult classes, and homesickness. But she also discovered new passions, joining an art collective, attending workshops, and making friends who shared her values. She remembered her mother's advice and began trusting her own decisions, balancing independence with careful thought. One evening, While video calling Sarah, Emma said, "Mom, I was nervous at first, but I feel like I'm finally finding my rhythm. College is challenging, but I also feel alive in a way I never did before." Sarah smiled at the screen. "I'm so proud of you. That's exactly how growth feels: exciting, scary, and full of possibilities. Remember, challenges don't define you. How you respond to them does." Emma laughed softly. "You sound like a motivational poster, Mom." Sarah grinned. "Maybe, but at least a motivational poster with fresh socks." Even as Emma embraced independence, she sometimes called home for guidance. Sarah never imposed solutions, but offered reflections and questions that helped her daughter think critically. "What do you think is the best way forward, Emma? What aligns with your values?" Sarah would ask, reminding her daughter that the power to decide was hers. During the holidays, Emma came home with new stories, college projects, friendships, and the first experiences of adult responsibility. She shared mistakes she had made and lessons learned. Sarah listened, knowing that her daughter's failures were as important as her successes. "You've learned to navigate life on your own," Sarah said one evening. "But remember, learning never stops. Life will always challenge you. The secret is to meet it with courage, honesty, and a little humor." Emma nodded. "Mom, I realized something. I used to think independence meant doing everything by myself, but now I see it also means knowing when to ask for help. And I feel lucky because I always have you." Sarah hugged her tightly. "And I will always be here." Independence doesn't mean leaving love behind. It means carrying it with you wherever you go. Viewers, take a moment to reflect. As children grow into adulthood, letting go is one of the hardest lessons for parents. How do you balance supporting independence while staying emotionally connected? Share your thoughts in the comments. It could help someone watching this video today. Emma's college experiences also tested her values. One evening, she was invited to a party where she felt peer pressure similar to high school, but on a more serious scale. This time, she was ready. She calmly declined activities that didn't feel right, explaining her boundaries to friends. Some respected her, others distanced themselves. But Emma felt empowered. She realized her identity wasn't tied to fitting in, but to standing firm in her choices. Sarah watched Emma grow into a confident young woman, understanding that letting go didn't mean losing connection. It meant trusting the foundation they had built together over years. Love, guidance, shared values, and open communication. One day, Emma returned home with a portfolio of her latest artwork. "Mom, look at what I've created this semester," she said, pride in her voice. Sarah examined the paintings, amazed at Emma's growth, both as an artist and as a person. "Emma, these are beautiful. You've poured yourself into your work, and it shows. I see not just skill, but your heart in every stroke." Emma smiled. "Thanks, Mom. I couldn't have done it without everything you taught me, trusting myself, making choices, and not being afraid to fail." Sarah felt a mixture of pride and bittersweet emotion. She realized that parenting is not about keeping children close forever, but about giving them the tools to thrive when they are far away. She had learned that the hardest part of love is letting go, and the most rewarding part is watching them soar. "Mom," Emma said softly, "I feel like I'm ready for the future. I know I'll face challenges, but I also know I can handle them because of you." Sarah hugged her tightly. "And I will always believe in you. Emma, no matter how far you go, my love will follow you. Remember, life is a series of choices. Some are easy, some are hard, but every choice builds the person you are meant to become." They laughed together, recalling memories of awkward teenage years, first heartbreaks, and all the lessons learned along the way. Humor, Sarah realized, had been as vital as guidance. It reminded them both not to take life too seriously, even during difficult times. Before we close, viewers, reflect on this. Parenting is a journey of love, trust, and letting go. What advice would you give to someone preparing to let their child step into adulthood? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Your wisdom could help someone navigate this delicate moment. As the sun set that evening, Emma packed her sketchbook and laptop. Preparing to return to college, Sarah watched her daughter leave with a sense of peace. Emma was no longer the anxious teenager she had once been. She was a young woman ready to face the world, guided by her values, empowered by her experiences, and carrying the lessons of love, resilience, and independence taught by her mother. And Sarah knew, no matter where life took Emma, their bond would remain unbreakable, built not on control, but on trust, understanding, and the courage to let go while staying deeply connected.